Hi everyone, it's Jacqueline again. So this week I want to discuss boundaries. For instance, boundaries with patients, boundaries with their families. I have this one client, she is 60 years old. She doesn't really have any deficits, but she does have some mental health issues. It's very difficult for her to focus. She kind of goes around and around in a circle. It's very hard to focus on what's going on. She tends to get very emotional. She cries. And this week I did meet with her, and we were really just talking about voter registration. But she knows I'm a student. And all throughout the conversation, it kept coming back to me. And it was very difficult to try and get her to focus on herself. Typically, in my past employment, when I was working with youth, I would be open and honest a lot of times with youth about specific things if they asked me questions. With this patient, I just didn't find it appropriate. So it was very difficult because she kept saying, well, you're a student and this is what you're supposed to be doing. And when are you graduating? And do you have kids? And it became difficult during my session because every time she would ask me a question, I would kind of say, hey, we're here to talk about you, not about me. And she kept saying, I know, but I need to talk about you. And after about 20 minutes of kind of going back and forth, I was trying to redirect the conversation to her many times. They kept saying, well, tell me about yourself. And do you have kids? Were you married? To try and bring it back on her and not so much me. It really continued to what I decided to do was end the session. I just said at this time I don't think it's appropriate, to have a conversation, which was difficult because I enjoy speaking with the patients and want to engage and want to help them and be a listening ear. But I also didn't want to spend time of her asking myself questions that I just didn't find appropriate. So I think when it comes to boundaries, we just kind of have to be careful of what we're comfortable with sharing and what we're not, and understanding how to end something when we do feel uncomfortable. So I did end up ending the session, and I went and spoke with my field instructor, and she said that was fine. That I, typically with this patient, really should be meeting about 10 minutes, no longer, because she's unable to, focus and trying and bringing an activity. Another thing I think when we have to watch our boundaries is dealing with families, especially in my internship. Families are constantly there. They want our opinions. They want to know our thoughts. If a nurse treated, them unfairly, well, how would you handle it? And what would you do if it was your father? And I always just try and go back and say, well, this is the protocol and this is how things are typically handled. I could definitely speak with my supervisor instead of saying I would handle it this way. I just feel that that's crossing a boundary, and that's kind of becoming more personal than professional. And I really like to keep things professional. I think it helps to build a stronger relationship and kind of make it clear of what your role is there. And I think it's hard because I am young. I'm only 29. So many families will kind of say, well, you don't understand and you've never been through this before. And, what do you know? And I think, again, it's just really important to know what you're comfortable sharing with and trying not to answer certain questions. I've had families, well, how old are you? And what, when they ask simple questions like, what school are you coming from? Or what are you studying? Or how long are you going to be here? I'll answer those. But at this point, I'm not comfortable in answering questions. Do I have children? Where do I live? Do I live close by? And I think that can be difficult, especially when families are always around, because they can catch me anywhere I'm going. If I'm walking down the hallway, they'll say, oh my God, you're so-and-so's student. I'm so-and-so's son, and I have a question, and, I, need you to answer this. And sometimes it becomes, they want more of a personal relationship. And I think sometimes it just is they're lonely and want somebody to talk to. But I just try to explain overall, again, what my role is here, being a student intern. I think it's just really important with boundaries to really determine of what you're comfortable with sharing and how far you want that relationship to go. again, I think in this instance, especially with my internship, I really try and keep things more professional. When I was working with youth, there were times that I would open up and share if they asked me certain questions that I felt comfortable with. Just because I think when they're young, they look up to somebody. Working with the elderly, it's a little bit different. There are just some things I don't feel comfortable with. And I don't want them to get to know me on a personal level either. Sometimes working with the male patients, you know, you can kind of joke around and they'll say, oh, well, you're married, you can come out to dinner with me. And I'll just kind of joke and say, yeah, you know, I got to get back to paperwork. But I think boundaries is extremely important, and you need to make sure what you're comfortable with boundary-wise and really think about that before going into an internship or a job, because you don't want to get caught off guard. And if you're not going to share certain things with one patient, then again, I don't think you should share them with other patients at all. So that's my topic for tonight. Thanks, guys.